morning, all you entrepreneurs and small business people out there. You are listening to the Savvy Entrepreneur Show. If you're a small business person, you are in the right place. I'm Doris Nagel, your host for the next hour. The show has two goals: to share information and resources, because I, as an entrepreneur, have made so many mistakes. My clients have made lots of mistakes, and I've had friends and family who've also made lots of mistakes. If I can help just a couple of you out there not make some of those mistakes, then I've been successful. The second goal is to inspire. I found, at least, that being an entrepreneur is often confusing, lonely. You have no idea sometimes if you're on the right track or not, or where to turn for good advice. So to help with both those goals, I have guests on the show every week who are willing to share their stories and their advice. And this week's guest is Nikyra McCann. She is the founder of a company called Still Standing that focuses on mental health. And she's joined me this week to share her journey as an entrepreneur and also to talk about an issue that, even though there's growing awareness of mental health, still is not really talked about or addressed enough. So Nikyra, thanks so much for being on the show today. Welcome to the Savvy Entrepreneur.
Oh, thanks for having me, Doris. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I am glad you're here too, because what you're doing is so meaningful and important. And I know it's personally important to you. But let's start out talking just a little bit about Still Standing. What does it do? Who's it designed to help? And why did you decide to found the company? There must be a gap that you thought needed to be addressed.
Yeah, so Still Standing Enterprise started with my own personal story. At the age 20, I was diagnosed with a mental illness, just had several hospitalizations, isolation, 18 hours. And so I just wanted a platform, a sort of to give hope and inspiration to others through my story, through my suffering. And I wanted a way to advocate for others through my injustice of my mental health episodes so that they don't have to endure my suffering. So I created Still Standing Enterprise, which is downtown Madison, Wisconsin. And I specialize in mental health wellness. So I am now a rehabilitation worker with Dane County, and I specialize in workshops and seminars pertaining to mental wellness.
Well, if you're willing, I'd love to hear a little more about the story of the pain that you experienced, because I think talking about it is part of the solution. At least that's my perspective. I don't know if you agree or not, but I think people need to understand the pain that a lot of folks are in that deal with mental illness. And lots of people do in some form of mental illness at some point in their life, right?
Yes. So 1 in 5 adults will experience a mental illness in America.
1 in 5. I'm almost surprised it's not higher than that, but
Yep.
That's high.
5.
That's a lot.
Yep. So my pain and my suffering, when I would have mental health episodes, I would end up in jail and not in a mental institution. And my mother had to fight for me so hard to get me out of jail when I should have been in a mental institution. And my last hospitalization at the age 28, I was dragged out of the church by a police officer, literally dragged from the front of the church to outside where the police car was parked. I was chained to a hospital bed where I spit in 2 police officer faces due to fear. Like, I'm trapped to a bed, fearing for my life. What else could I have done? And I spit in 2 police officer faces. I was charged with 2 felonies. And so I had to do first offenders program, and the charges were dropped a couple of years ago. But just that injustice, I had no idea. I had no control over the situation. I was experiencing a mental health crisis.
I'd like to think you're talking about something 50 years ago, but I'm
No, this was 4 years ago. 4 years ago. Yep.
wow.
Yep.
It just goes to show the lack of understanding and the system's inability to catch people. People like you are just falling through. And your experience is pretty tangible, right? I mean, I guess I'm personally disturbed by the fact that I've had any number of friends and friends of friends tell me about teen suicide. And in most cases, they say they never saw it coming.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow, we've got to do more to try to help identify some of these issues, right?
Yes, yes. And the teen mental health rate is going up. You're hearing lots more about teens and the youth and just the issues that they're sort of facing within their homes and within schools and, just everywhere that they go. So I do believe that and now is the right time, like we've come from it being this way for so long that it's like now is a time to help for the betterment of us all moving forward.
I'm struck by the amount of pain that's in your voice, and I'm still hearing the pain in the parents' voices talking about their kids. I mean, and I myself have dealt with depression, I've dealt with anxiety. I know lots of people, if you're willing to kind of bare your soul a little bit, will say the same thing. So it's pretty clear to me why you're so passionate about this. A lot of that has been talked about because of COVID and the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and the increase in mental health issues. Are you think those are real, or is it just people are talking about them more, or both?
So I think that the issue was sort of always there, but it was overlooked due to the stigma or people believing that, okay, because you have a mental illness, you're just crazy. So people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to come out about it, that they have a mental illness, when really it's not even the sense of just you being crazy. Like sometimes people have chemical imbalances in their brain and you need to be leveled out so that you can complete your day-to-day tasks. So it's not that you're crazy or you're this delusional person. Sometimes it can be a physical issue with your brain.
Yeah.
So I just feel that maybe COVID brought more of awareness, brought it more to the surface on the issue that was suppressed. But I'm just glad that it's happening now, right? It's better now than later.
Why, as a society, do you think we have been so reluctant to openly address and give credence to mental health issues?
So with me, I am a woman of faith. So in my church, they would say sort of that it was a spiritual battle, like
The
it's just
devil's trying to
spiritual.
get you?
Yep, it's demons and it's a demonic attack, and in which, in a sense, it was. But I think that sort of the natural aspect needs to be sort of dealt with also, like I said, with maybe a chemical imbalance or something like that. But I just think that it was just so overlooked just because of the stigma, really, and the stigma that comes with it. You have a mental illness, you're
Yeah.
crazy, or you can't do what you need to do every day. Like no one wants that over their head, right? So it's, yeah, I think that's just it. The stigma associated with it.
Yeah. You were triggering in me as you were talking the shame element. There is for sure a shame piece of it that somehow if you were only strong enough or smarter or more together, that you wouldn't have these problems. And I think that kind of permeates a lot of our society. The American culture historically is kind of like tough it out, right? Be tough, be tougher than the next guy. And mental health doesn't quite fit in with that very well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But with me, I sort of look at it as So at my church, I was anointed prophetess, and I had an apostle who sort of was just there for me during this sort of delusional state in my life. And he just sort of spoke life to me and, anointed me prophetess and told me that I would speak to thousands. And that's what helped me to get through in my sort of delusional state. And today it's like, here I am. Everything that I ever imagined, everything that I said that I was telling people when they thought that I was crazy. I'm going to be on TV. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. It's really happening, right? So I believe that even in the sense to delusion or people having mental illness, like sometimes there's truth to things. So don't always think that just because someone has a mental illness that they're just crazy, they're out of their mind, they don't know what they're talking about. Like really get in depth with them and try to figure out like, okay, what are you thinking and how can I help instead of bashing or tearing down.
The other thing you said that struck me as really important is you were very lucky in that you found someone who could kind of be your anchor to help you through the really toughest of times. Yes. And so how do you help people find that anchor? And maybe that's part of what Still Standing is about.
Yes. So my mother also, my mother graduated with her bachelor's in 2008. I had my first hospitalization at the age 20, maybe like a couple years after that. She was working in a psych unit. And so my mother was also my help. My mother, I remember times walking down the street and my mother was just like walking right beside me. I'm delusional, and she fought in the courtroom. She fought to get me the help that I needed. She fought for my charges to get dropped. And sort of my mother was sort of my anchor too, and that person that never gave up on me. And as to what you said, if you have one person who don't give up on you, you can make it through anything. And that's why I wanted to establish Still Standing Enterprise so that I can be that help for others who need help, as my mother and my apostle was to me also.
Based on your training and talking with lots of people who have mental health challenges or have had them, what are some of the warning signs that maybe friends and family should watch out for? What advice do you give people about helping to reach out to people who may be experiencing trouble and maybe they're, they try to hide it because they're just convinced that if they work hard enough at it, it'll go away, or they're ashamed of it, or they're not even aware of it themselves of how bad things have gotten?
So I would say some signs are that I noticed: not sleeping, not eating, not taking medication. That was sort of bring me down on a downward spiral. And I would say to people who have sort of someone who's going through, like, don't be afraid to just knock on the door sometimes. If you haven't heard from them, don't be afraid to just, show up and be present in their lives to help them to get better, because sometimes that's what people need. Just someone there, somebody that cares about them and their well-being.
Yeah. Well, let's circle back to your business. There's so many unmet needs when it comes to mental health. How did you focus on what you do focus on with Still Standing? I mean, how did you get started? How did you sort through all the things that could be done out there to help with mental health issues?
So when I established Still Standing, I thought what helped me. So in 2013, I did a movie about my life, Don't Judge Me, which was aired at a local theater. So I found that creative things like music, therapy, just finding hobbies, writing, different things like that, that's what has helped me. So that's what I sort of implement with others: therapy through art and music, seminars just for knowledge and different things like that. So I thought if it helped me, I know that it can help others. And so that's sort of how I started and how I sort of put, everything together. And then I am now a rehabilitation worker with the county, where I help people with skill development, medication management, physical health monitoring, and some other areas. So just that in itself brings healing to myself, to have come from such a place of darkness or such a place of pain, such a place of just destruction, what I went through, and to see myself today, like, okay, I've been in recovery for years. Now I can help others. Now I can help others to reach their place of recovery and see better days for their future.
So how did you get started? What was your first offering and how did you create it and how did you find clients and funding for it?
So I have a contract with the county. So that's sort of how I am paid, and it's funded through Dane County Department of Human Services, Dane County. So
hold on a second. How did you even know that there was a contract to be had and to get that contract?
Yep. So I'm on the committee for Dane County CCS. So I was brought to the committee by my previous executive director, and then I was just learning more about the process. And then so I went through the process for the contract, got the contract, and then sort of now I'm working with clients.
Great. How do you find clients and kinds of services you offer to them and how you market those?
Yep. So CCS is its own organization within itself. So clients come to their organization and then I get referrals for clients. So it's all, the clients are already there. They want the help. They want to be cared for, and they want to have a sense of recovery within their own lives. So I get referrals from other agencies for clients to work with me. I work with clients on different things like helping with learning how to grocery shop or just confidence, different things like that. So it could be an area of, oh, I want to learn how to mow a lawn or whatever it may be. So just that sort of skill that they want to sort of build on to get better.
Mental health has so many different aspects to it. It's like a diamond with a whole bunch of different facets, right? There's suburban, well-to-do teens who are suffering from depression and anxiety. There's college students. There's, postpartum moms. There's, and then there's a segment of people who are on the streets or have been in and out of the streets who probably struggle with maybe addiction issues as well as mental health issues. How do you pull all that apart and, deal with some of the different kinds of needs?
Well, I sort of look at mental health like not only is it just categorized within sort of different people or different people who are going through different situations, but I honestly feel like mental health impacts everyone. I mean, you might get stressed from just being at work one day, so many clients or so many things that you have to deal with at work, or maybe you might lose a loved one and that can bring on stress. So it's not just putting it in separate groups. Like I just look at it like it impacts everyone, and just sort of looking at it in the aspect of just dealing with people on the level that they're at. So if someone might need something different than someone else. So it's really just meeting people where they're at so that they can get well.
Yeah. Well, where do you see your business going? I mean, you obviously could probably spend the rest of your days making a difference in the Madison area in Wisconsin. But my guess is your goals are a little more ambitious than that. Talk about where you'd like to see Still Standing going. I mean, what does it look like 2 or 3 years from now if you're successful?
So I would honestly like to be international.
International. Holy buckets. I thought you were going to say state of Wisconsin.
No. I would love to work on an international level. Like I've already been featured in a newspaper in Africa, and just, every time when I go live, so many people from all over the world would write me and inbox me. So just really like reaching or having an impact all over. Like I don't think that there is a limit to it. I want to go as far as I can because it's my passion, and I just really have the desire, and I see the great need, and I just want to be that support for others.
You bet. I was just thinking the need is just like a bottomless pit. So,
Yep.
you're one human being though, Nakaira.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you're a very high energy woman who accomplishes an amazing amount, but you're still one person. So, what needs to happen with your business in order to become an internationally recognized source for helping people with mental health issues?
Yep, I would say just more partnering with more mental health agencies throughout the world, and also finding more funding, more resources to be able to sort of implement these things and to do the work.
Where do you think funding might come from? Where are some of the things you've been thinking about?
Possible investors. That's really have been what my key thing is, investors. I know that that there's a lot of money in investments, and I know that my story and my mission and my purpose, someone will want to invest in it and to see the impact that I can have on the world.
How will you show revenue? I mean, do you think that the contract that you have with the public health services in the Madison area or Dane County there, is that the same model you'd like to replicate with public health agencies around the US and outside the US too?
So this will probably just be good for Dane County, but with sort of expanding and reaching out to different more agencies, it'll probably be contracts to be able to contract with other agencies.
I'm sure that can be a long process in some cases. I mean, you had an advantage in Dane County in that you were already on the inside track of the process, right?
Yep.
And I'm sure every agency has their own little quirks and timelines and budget considerations and boxes that need to get ticked.
Yep.
I'm guessing you're going to need help with that, right?
Yeah, just like I said, expanding my team and sort of having the right team in place to take on the assignment.
Yeah. I'm curious if you have any stories besides your own of people that have been impacted by some of the appearances you've made or talks you've done or the helping hand that you've offered.
Yeah, so I have a few, just people who have been with me on my journey along the way that have been impacted by my recovery and just by my story, and just, are just receiving sort of their healing and their stability just from where I've came from, because they've experienced me at my sort of instability, and to see the transformation into recovery, into stability. Like, I think that in itself was just enough for people to say, like, wow, if Kyra did it, I know I can do it also.
It's interesting. I read something not too long ago talking about, I think the article was actually about teen suicide, but talking about mental health in general, and said that actually one of the best things, it's counterintuitive maybe, because certainly when you're dealing with the throes of a mental health issue, you need help. But the article said that one of the best ways is to actually help someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that? It sounds like you might.
I do. I really do. I really do. I think that, like how the peer support is now, arising and different things like that. I just believe that, so my healing has really came, and it continues to come by helping others. I think that has been my biggest support in my recovery, has been helping others. Because when I think about the pain that I've been through, I don't want someone else to experience that pain. So when I'm making a difference in their life and I'm seeing that they're being impacted in a good way, Like that makes me feel good. So I totally agree.
Yeah. The other thing that is kind of concerning is that our healthcare system, as it's currently set up, is not really very mentally health friendly. Do you agree
Mhm.
with that?
Yes, and I just know that like even in my county, Dane County. So when I first had my first hospitalization, I was transported to a mental health agency here in town, and they closed that facility. So when I was having hospitalizations after that, I would have to take a 2-hour drive all the way out just to get to a mental health facility. And
Wow.
so that in itself was frightening. It's late at night. I'm in handcuffs, driving through the dark. Like that was crazy. So it's just like I do believe like it's just not a system of just the knowledge of what people need really when it comes to mental health. And I just believe that things need to change. And once they change, I do believe that we can see mental health get better and for everyone in the care system to get better as well.
People who have health plans, usually mental health coverage is very limited. Maybe you get 6 sessions or something, and then you're on your own to try to pay for it. It's not like it's a rehab on your knee, where you can go to
Yeah.
a physical therapist 6 times and okay, now go home and do some exercises, right?
Yep. Yep. It is sort of just sometimes you're on your own, sometimes you're on your own and even some insurances are not accepted. And so that disqualifies people from getting treatment. So it is definitely a barrier.
Yeah. How do we as a society, do you think, get more funding, more realistic about what we need to do to help people with mental health issues?
Well, I believe that the money is there. I feel like, and maybe, well, with the government, but maybe it's being put into things that it doesn't need to go into. So maybe if mental health was a priority in funding, then maybe that could sort of help the issues. And I also believe that we can help by changing these laws, policies, and procedures to help with the system of mental health and the mental health care system.
Yeah. Talk about how you started your company. When did you get started, and what have been some of the challenges you faced along the way so far?
Yep. So I officially started in 2012, but then that was just, so it was sort of just like a vision, a thought, right? Over the years, I would have it still staying in enterprise, still staying in entertainment. And so I just recently got the legal structure in September of last year, LLC. So just really what have been some struggles along the way, I would say just myself getting balanced, right? Myself from,
That
from
you're
yes,
I'm laughing because every entrepreneur, most of them who are honest and look in the mirror say, I'm my own biggest obstacle.
yes. So when over the years of having hospitalizations, getting balanced myself. And now that I'm in a better place and I'm getting better each day, I think that will be the big success of my business to continue forward.
What have in your past has prepared you surprisingly well to run a business, and what skills have you, or gaps or things have you learned about yourself on the journey so far that maybe you weren't quite as prepared for?
So I would say that what has helped me to be where I am today has been my story, right? My story. And in your story, you gain strength. In your story, you gain skills. In your story, what you go through, you gain knowledge to be able to help others. And I just believe that just my lived experience has sort of prepared me to be where I am today and the work that I want to do. And what is one thing that was sort of unexpected or that I need to get more prepared for, I would say is funded. Because if I have such a big vision, such a big mission that I want to accomplish, I need that big mission and vision funding behind me to be able to implement my services.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's probably the other thing I hear the most talking to entrepreneurs is, yeah, the funding issue is definitely a pretty important one. What resources have you found along the way that have been helpful in your business journey? Not so much your mental health journey, but your business journey.
One of the biggest, and I'm going to tell you, the biggest thing that has helped me in my business journey is Google.
Google?
Google, yes. Google, tell me a mental health agency. Google tells you everything. Whatever you need to know, go to Google. Like Google has like just helped me and given me so many sort of resources. So that has been like a key to like my success and being where I am, and sort of partnering and finding different agencies have been Google.
Are there any other entrepreneurs that have been helpful to you along the way?
Yeah, I have a consultant. She has really helped with her consulting and helping me to sort of get everything in order on everything that I need to do. So just really a lot of people in the community have just been a great support, so, and I'm just forever grateful.
Well, it takes a village, they say, and it really is true. It sounds trite, but it really is, I think, a very true statement.
Yes.
So you have a lot of things you want to accomplish with Still Standing Enterprises, but are there other things that you are hoping to accomplish in your professional and business career?
Yeah, so I don't not only do I do just mental health, I have a TV show which is expanding to New York and also Chicago and some cities and villages here in Madison. So just my TV show Still Standing, and just also being a woman of God, I've always wanted to sort of preach throughout the world as in my faith. So not only just Still Standing, there are other things that I hope to accomplish as well.
Talk a little more about the TV appearances. That sounds pretty interesting. How did you go about that?
Yeah, so I just pitched my TV show to Fitchburg Fact TV years ago, and I've been just doing it ever since. And it's been a great experience. And then I just pitched it to other stations, and they wanted it. And then now it's expanded to, as I said, New York and Chicago. So
you make this sound so easy. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just because it's the topic that's so relevant, or you're just a better salesperson than you let on, or I don't know, you're in the right place at the right time. What do you attribute it to?
I just attribute it to God, right? And him sort of leading me and guiding me and letting me know what doors to go through and what to do, and just letting him be the head of my life and just letting him let me know what I need to do in life. So I just believe that, and it could just be my faith, and just like you said, being in the right places at the right time.
Whatever kind of religious orientation you have, I think that is a common theme I hear among entrepreneurs is you need to have faith. Whatever that wellspring of your faith is, you need to have it, because there's a lot of days when things don't quite go the way you hope they do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, looking back over your journey so far, which is you're really just starting out though, but, looking at it so far, because you've been thinking about this for a long time, what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs who are thinking about starting a business? And in particular, maybe advice to women founders or founders who are women of color or other folks who just frankly, it's a little harder. The track is just harder.
I would say don't give up on yourself and don't doubt yourself. If you have a thought, it starts with a thought, right? So write it out, write out what you want to do, see your vision, and then just implement it, turn it into action. And I believe that once you turn it into action, as you said, whatever your faith, whatever you believe in, whatever you go to, like lean on that and just know that, you can do it. And you might have been through so much in life. You might have had barriers and breakdowns, whatever you've been through, but just know that your days can get better and anything you want to do in life, you can do it.
That is very inspirational. Is there anything that looking back you'd have done differently?
Looking back, I would say I don't know. That's a tricky question because it's like it happened, right? It happened, and
Well,
it made
and
me who I am.
a lot of people, yeah, people will say it happened for a reason when it happened.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not trying to trick you. I'm just curious of, if there's anything in your journey that you feel like it would be helpful to share with other people who are thinking about starting a business.
No, I would just say just go for it. It starts with that action. I would say go for it and there's many possibilities. Do your research, connect with organizations. If you have a business of mental health, research mental health organizations. We have a TV show, implement other resources of TV shows. So just really what area you're in, expand with other organizations who are like yours to so that your business can become more.
Yeah. And that you become part of a greater community of
Yeah,
and a network. Because
absolutely.
I do think it's important to keep connecting with people and to stay
Yeah,
connected.
absolutely.
So, last question for you. How should people reach you if they're interested maybe in having you do a workshop or present, or maybe just want to know more about Still Standing Enterprises services and how they can get involved?
Yep. So my website is stillstandingenterprise.com and I can be reached at Still Standing Enterprise number, and that is 608-224-9656. And we are available to help your mental wellness and recovery services.
Well, I, for one, am glad that you're out there chipping away. It's just a little overwhelming sometimes to think of all the things that need to be done. And I am so grateful that you and all of your positive energy are focused on helping make a difference with it because we certainly do need it. So, Nakaira, thanks so much for being on the Savvy Entrepreneur this week. I'm really glad you joined me.
Thank you, Doris. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
In the time we have left this week, I thought, given my guest focus on mental health, that we might talk generally about mental health and specifically anxiety and self doubt and how they affect entrepreneurs. A lot of the reasons entrepreneurs struggle, frankly, I think, are mental. One common reason they give up, I know I have given up in the past for this reason, is that I stopped believing in myself. Or maybe to be more accurate, I never really quite believed in myself to begin with. And being a successful entrepreneur is in large part about being a successful salesperson. People think about the sales aspect of starting a business when it comes to pitching to investors, pitch competitions. For sure, selling is really important then, but selling permeates all aspects of starting and building a business. You need to sell when you're asking friends and family for money or loan. You need to sell to the bank if you need a bank loan. You need to sell to service providers, especially if you're hoping to barter services early on when funds are tight or totally non-existent. You need to sell to those first employees to take a chance on the opportunity to be part of your growing idea before it really takes off. Because for them, there's a risk they may not end up getting paid or have to look for a new job if you're business creators. Listen to my interview with Melissa Keel the CEO of Reiki Interiors. She talks about how she had a huge cash flow problem at one point. Her business was seriously in need of money, and she owed a lot of money to her suppliers. And instead, she sold to them a package where they would all reduce the amount owed and accept payment from her over time. Now that, I think, requires some serious selling. And of course, the big one, you need to convince your customers that they need your products or your services, and that your offer is definitely worth paying for when there are usually lots of alternatives, some of which might even be less expensive than yours or better known. So, you know, it's said that to be a great salesperson, you need three things. You need a great product or service, you need a great company that sells it, and you need to believe in yourself. And as a startup entrepreneur, while you may have a great product or service idea, or maybe it's in a great light bulb, but ultimately, at the very beginning, you have only one of those things. You have yourself. No one knows your product yet. They don't know your company. So you have only you and your belief in yourself. And that's why it's so sad that a lot of businesses fail, because ultimately the founder or owner ends up losing faith in himself or herself. So what do? What if you find yourself doubting yourself and your abilities? Well, for one, there are lots of frameworks out there. There's lots of self-help books, inspirational TED Talks. You'll find lots of them if you go looking for them. But I personally love the framework set out by an organization called Soul Salt. And I'm unabashedly lifting some things from a framework that they have out there on their website. And then I would encourage any of you who struggle with self-doubt to check out their site, because they have some really good practical recommendations. They're first in their 5-part framework to improve our belief in ourselves is first to work on your strength, not your weaknesses. An interesting first step. Make a list of what your strengths are. Most of us already know what some of those are, but, there's tools for that too. There's the Strength Finder 2.0 quiz that's kind of fun to do. Or you can make a list of things people have told us over the years that we're good at. Make a list of your past accomplishments that have made you proudest or brought you the most satisfaction. I'll bet you'll start to see patterns. Then work on those strengths. Identify what you're not as good at that needs doing in your business, and brainstorm about ways to help find places to help you with those. It could be a partner, a mentor, outsource it with a virtual intern, with a virtual assistant or an intern. The second step in their goal, in their framework, is to be your own coach. Stop being judgmental, number one. Write out the things about your business that you're not very happy with at the moment or not satisfied with, and try to come up with little plans to improve each of those aspects. The third step in the framework is embrace who you are. Stop trying to be someone who's not you. Look at whether or not you're trying to meet other people's expectations. Focus on your core values. Write down a list of things that are really important to you. Then start to be more observant of your own thoughts and emotions. Try journaling. Start noticing where there is a conflict or stress between how you feel and spend your time versus what's really important to you on that list of core values. Fourth, continually tell yourself you can do it. Yes, I know this sounds a bit Pollyanna-ish. Be your own cheerleader, that sort of thing. But the fact of the matter is, it's not just wishful thinking. Because if you believe you can do it, you tell yourself you can do it, it changes the way you see the world and yourself. And a lot of us not just entrepreneurs, a lot of us subtly sabotage ourselves by listening to and even ruminating that downward cycle of thinking and reinforcing and, self-doubt and negative thoughts. You need to stop feeding those thoughts. Do not feed the troll. So you can either see endless possibilities or insurmountable obstacles, and it's up to you to choose which way you want to frame the issues. And finally, this last one is my favorite one. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think this is where a lot of first-time entrepreneurs get stuck. It's awfully easy for us as human beings. We don't like change all that much, and it's easy to do the same things you did yesterday or last week and tell yourself that you'll get to that other thing or that big hairy goal that you were thinking about next week or the week after, and somehow time just slips away. Another of my past guests, I think, said it another way. If you're comfortable, you are not taking enough risks. I think that's true of entrepreneurs. I think that's true, frankly, of all of us who want personal growth. So you need to keep experimenting and trying things. One idea that as my own, I didn't see this on the Soul Salt site, but make a list of all the things that you think you see other companies doing to promote their products or grow their business. And that can be all kinds of things. If you start just kind of looking around, reading the news, watching the, LinkedIn feeds and YouTube feeds, maybe it's making a video promotion or doing live Instagram or YouTube events, posting goofy stuff on social media, holding contests, partnering with other businesses, doing press releases. There's so many different things that businesses do, and so make a list of them and ask yourself if any of these just might possibly help your business. And if so, how would you go about doing that? As entrepreneurs, we love brainstorming with others about ideas, but we often subtly shoot down and sabotage our own thoughts. Why do we do that? The world is truly full of endless possibilities. Remember that entrepreneurship is a journey. It's not a destination. So embrace that journey. Have fun with it. Try goofy things. Try weird things. Go out on a limb. Give yourself permission every day to do the virtual equivalent of skydiving. Jump out without a safety net. For more ideas on how to restore your faith in yourself, or maybe build it if you never truly had it in the first place, I really do recommend checking out Soul Salt. As I said, lots of great practical suggestions. Now, before I wrap up this week's show, I want to put in a couple of plugs for my own business and the Savvy Entrepreneur. You can find lots of free, helpful information and resources on my consulting website, globalocityservices.com. There's lots of free blogs and tools, ebooks, infographics, and you'll also find an archive of a lot of the past Savvy Entrepreneur shows with lots of tips and helpful suggestions from dozens and dozens of past amazing guests on the show. Now, I've also created a dedicated web show site, aptly titled thesavvyentrepreneur.org, and I'll be moving more and more content over there, so keep an eye out. Check out, too, my dedicated YouTube channel called The Savvy Entrepreneur Radio Show. You can listen to there and even download recent past episodes of the show. Listen to some of the past shows, like them, and even comment on them. Follow my channel so you'll be sure to catch future shows as they're posted. You'll be supporting the work of the Savvy Entrepreneur and also lots of your fellow entrepreneurs who will appreciate your help in getting the word out there about all the great things that they are doing and the phenomenal free advice that they've shared. Lastly, I want to drop in a word for our station, WLCB. We are a nonprofit radio station, and just like NPR and PBS, we depend on listener support from listeners just like you. It's easy to donate. Go to www.lakesradio.org, click the donate button. If you're interested in being a sponsor or would like to advertise on WLCB, just reach out to me at dnagel@lakesradio.org or go to the Contact Us page on the lakesradio.org website. You'll be sure to get a response back. Thanks so much for listening this week, folks. Tune in next week at 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern, and I'll have another great guest and topic. But until then, I'm Doris Nagel, wishing you happy entrepreneuring.